topic for today is karma. Who's heard of karma? Everyone, right? Yes, of course. Who believes in karma? That's like, not sure, maybe not. All right, so we'll explore this topic of belief in karma. Is it necessary? What is karma? And go a bit deeper than the popular conception of karma today. And hopefully it'll be interesting and engaging and get everyone's minds going, considering all these kind of spiritual topics. Okay, we discussed who believes in karma. Who believes in gravity? Come on. I assume most people. Yes, okay. Krishnendu, you don't? No? Okay. So, why do you believe in gravity? Most of us, at least. Why do most people believe in gravity? I think most people were taught in school something akin to Isaac Newton was sitting under a tree, an apple fell on his head, and he was like, aha, I figured it out. And he wrote down this equation that's like the amount of gravity you feel, or the amount of force from gravity you feel, is the mass of one object, the Earth, multiplied by the mass of another object, the apple, divided by the distance that they are away from each other, multiplied by g, the gravitational constant. And that gives you the amount of force. And so, if you have a big thing like the Earth and a small thing like the apple falls towards the Earth, and you have gravity. And you can work out by this equation exactly how strong the gravity is. And most people go, yes, true, yeah, no, completely wrong, utterly not what's going on at all, because as you might know, a couple hundred years after Newton, a certain scientist called Einstein came along and wrote the gravity field equation. So Einstein invented special relativity in 1907, and then 10 years later he came up with this, after 10 years of thinking, which describes how gravity actually works, or at least one level deeper of how it works. Who knows if this is the final way. But essentially, what's going on is not that the two objects are attracting each other, is that the Earth is bending space around it, and the apple is slowing its movement through time, moving through time at the speed of light, to move through time slightly slower than the speed of light, and then move through space and accelerate down towards the Earth. Yes, exactly, of course. And that's what this gravity field equation explains and allows you to calculate. Allows you to calculate how much space is curved around an object. That apple curves space around it a little bit. The Earth curves space around it a lot. And tells you how the object then moves in that curved space. And moves through time as well. So most people think they understand gravity from a superficial level, but actually, if you go at a deeper level, something completely different is going on. And you don't quite realize, and this is of course relevant for karma, where most people have this conception of karma that's like, oh, well, what goes around comes around, yeah, but there's so much more to it than that. And you don't really need to understand that level, but it's interesting if you do. Oh, and by the way, just on gravity, because I thought it was interesting. If the apple, instead of being an apple, was a black hole, the size of an apple, the black hole would be 5 times heavier than the entire Earth. And actually, the Earth would fall towards the apple rather than the apple falling towards the Earth. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, so on that topic, if you turn to Bhagavad-Gita, which is the spiritual text of knowledge that we study here, Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, the intricacies of action are very hard to understand, almost as hard as gravity, perhaps. And even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what action is and what inaction is. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So here's an interesting promise in Bhagavad-Gita. Understand karma, action and inaction, to the level that you understand let's say Einstein understands gravity, and you will be liberated from all misfortune. All unhappiness goes away. Pretty high promise. So let's see if we can do it justice. So, what were we talking about? Good karma versus bad karma. How this plays into reincarnation. Who decides what is good or bad? What's the point of karma in future lives if you don't remember your past life? Is there such a thing as proof of karma? Can you prove karma? Can you stop karma? And the art of all work, Karma-Yoga and Bhakti-Yoga. So there's lots of big topics. Everyone's ready? Let's get started. All right. Good karma. Good karma is what's described as legal work, or work that results in a pleasant reaction, something good, something that's in harmony with the world. The world might be an illusion, but you're working within the harmony of the laws of nature, and then you get happiness as a result. Then there's something in Sanskrit known as vikarma, which is you would call it negative karma or bad karma, where you would call it illegal work according to the laws of nature, something that results in an unpleasant reaction. You do something and you get a bad reaction. And there's two bank accounts. You can think of it as two bank accounts. Everything good you do accumulates good karma, and then it comes back to you as pleasant reaction. And everything bad you do accumulates bad karma in a separate bank account and comes back to you as bad reaction. And you have different balances in the two accounts, and you're withdrawing from the accounts every time something good or bad happens to you. And then there's akarma, which is like no karma, which is different from good or bad. It is simply the absence of karma, doing action that incurs no karma at all, which we will talk about more at the end of the presentation, which is a spiritual action. And to summarize how this works, again, turning to Bhagavad-Gita, nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of various sufferings and enjoyments in the world. So, nature, material nature, the laws of nature, apply a certain effect. Stuff happens to you because laws of nature are acting. Like someone might you jump up and you fall back down to earth because laws of nature are acting. But the living entity, the person, is the cause of various suffering or enjoyment. So you do the action, the karma accumulates, then nature gives the result of pleasant or unpleasant reaction. Let's go through a couple of examples to illustrate this. First, some obvious ones, right? So smoking. You smoke, you eventually develop lung cancer, cough, and all of these things. Everyone knows this, right? Living entity chooses the action, nature delivers the reaction. Similarly, you eat too much, like perhaps today after dinner, and you have a stomachache because your body is struggling to digest all of this great food. So again, you take some kind of action, you get some kind of reaction. Now let's go to something that a little bit more intricate, because obvious. Okay, everyone knows smoking causes cancer. Everyone knows you eat too much, you get a sore. I mean, these things are obvious. But let's go to something a little bit more subtle, such as playing the lottery.
Overnight security. James Haynes. James Haynes worked as an overnight security guard in 1998 when he won $19 million playing California's Super Lottery game. But he quickly went from winner to loser. His ex-wife reportedly took half the jackpot money, and Haynes developed a heroin habit costing him $1,000 a week. He then resorted to robbing banks to keep up his lifestyle. The FBI nicknamed him the PT Cruiser Bandit and the Seasoned Bandit because of his car and grey hair. In 2018, Haynes pleaded guilty to bank robbery and was sentenced to 33 months in prison. Of course, by that time, there was not $1 left of his earnings. Number 3, David Lee Edwards. 5 years after David Lee Edwards, a resident of Kentucky, won a jackpot, He was penniless and had to live in a storage shed with his wife. He married a woman 19 years younger than he was. The couple squandered the fortune on material things that brought the demise of so many winners. They bought dozens of high-end cars, a big mansion, and a plane. In the first 3 months, they had blown through $3 million. By the end of the first year, they had burned more than $12 million. The couple later spiraled into drug addiction, and just 12 years after hitting the jackpot that changed their life, their house was lost to foreclosure. David died in 2013 completely broke at age 58 in a hospice care facility. A few years later, his wife was arrested for stabbing a boyfriend. Number 2, Billy Bob Harrell Jr. Billy Bob Harrell Jr. is a well-known name for the lottery curse and spending millions of dollars in no time. He hit the Texas Lotto jackpot in 1997, but burned through his $31 million in just 2 years after winning. The profoundly religious family donated heavily to the church and individual congregation members, but his expenses and spending were not all donations. He and his wife bought a couple of houses and expensive cars for themselves and their family members. They paid for costly trips to Hawaii and lived the most luxurious lifestyle possible. With his excessive spending, money quickly dried up. Soon after the money was gone, Billy's marriage fell apart and their marriage ended in divorce. This was too much for Billy to handle. And just 2 years after winning more than $31 million, his son found him dead. He had taken his own life.
So yes, winning the lottery is an interesting case of karma, where someone might, by chance, win the lottery, but not have the karma to enjoy the result. And so, yes, you have lots of money, but you don't have the karma for that money to produce a pleasant reaction. So many people, in fact, like 70% of people that win the lottery within 5 years have no money left. And 70% of those people say that winning the lottery was the worst thing that ever happened to them. And now everyone here thinks, if I won the lottery, that wouldn't be me. But statistics, if I were to say, give you a prize and say, or take this thing, and 70% of people that take this thing say this was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. Would you take that thing? No! And yet everyone, or a significant number of people, buy lotto tickets, not realizing that you can't cheat your karma. Whatever happiness or unhappiness is due to come to you, will come to you, no matter what you do about it. You can shape your future happiness and unhappiness by how you react to what comes to you. But what's coming to you will come to you. So karma is triumphant, and the lottery is an excellent example that shows you how you cannot cheat your own karma. Another example, which stretches a little bit more into the explanation of karma and reincarnation, is of course people that eat lots of meat are reincarnated in their next life as either an animal that gets killed for its meat or an animal that is more suited at eating meat, such as, say, a tiger, cat, and so on. So animals don't get karma because they have limited free will. They're really driven by instinct more than having free choice. To get karma, you need free choice. And being reincarnated as a suitable animal is not really like punishment as such, because if you look in the Bhagavad-Gita again, whatever state of being one remembers when one quits one's body, O son of Kunti, that state one will attain without fail. So this is karma again, where someone, by their behavior and by their habits, someone that's like really we all know someone that's like really into their meat eating, and like really enjoys like digging into that steak, and they're like, well, actually, human bodies, when they eat lots of meat, they get like cancer and stuff. There are better bodies for eating meat than humans. If that's what your consciousness is, if that's what you're remembering, and that what your whole life is revolving around, this better use of your a better body is body of a tiger. And of course, karma, the reaction to the action of the meat eating, facilitates that. So just like the law of gravity, you throw something up, it comes down. You throw a certain activity into your life, that comes back to you and reflects at a suitable, reflects itself on your present state and on your future state. And then, of course, you have the freedom to react to that action. All right, moving on. This question that everyone's like, okay, so you accept that good and bad things happen, but who decides? Who tells me what is good and bad? And it's not like there's a law as such. Think of it more as the universe is set up in a certain way, and you can choose to accept the laws of nature or not. Like, someone might not believe in gravity and go jump off a building and say, I refuse to believe in gravity, but gravity will have its effect. It doesn't really matter if you believe or not. Someone that saws off the branch that they're sitting on will get a certain reaction, because that's the way the universe is set up. And so karma is described in Bhagavad-Gita as a similar thing, where the universe is set up to get karmic reaction, and you can play in that universe as you choose. You can accept that and get a reaction or not, and get the reaction of that. And it's for everyone to choose what they want to do, and not knowing or not caring doesn't really change the result. And you might say, well, I still don't believe in it, but as we will see, as we will talk about these things more, the more obvious reactions are like eating too much and having a stomachache. That's an obvious reaction that everyone can accept. But then there are more long-term reactions that someone with a bigger picture view of the world can see, where someone with a lesser picture view is kind of ignorant to, or simply does not care to acknowledge. Like for example, I mean, this example of sawing the branch that you're sitting on is one, but like someone might say, all right, in my field, right? Here's an example. I didn't think of telling this, but this is something that I encountered in my work just last week, where an AI model that my team was building didn't do what it was supposed to. And the reason, one analogy I gave when everyone asked me, like, why is this thing not doing what it's supposed to? I explained, well, there's this famous example where people trained a machine learning AI system to diagnose cancer in an X-ray, see if there's a cancer in a certain X-ray. And they trained the system, they deployed it, and it was making all kinds of mistakes. And they're like, what happened? And instead of learning to detect cancer in the X-ray, the AI system had learned to detect the X-ray machine in the intensive care unit, which was different to the images that came out of the X-ray machine in the general care unit. So the more worse off patients were, the machine learning model was seeing cancer in the more worse off patients, because the more worse off patients were more likely to be in the ICU, rather than learning what was actually in the X-ray. So someone that, as soon as I saw our problem, I was like, it's this thing. So normal person, the machine learning model is not doing what it's supposed to. They have no idea why. It's like, I don't know. It's not doing the thing that it's supposed to. But with some experience, with like a bigger picture, you can go, oh, I see exactly what's going on. It's this thing that has happened before. I've read this in an academic paper. I know exactly what's happening. So it's the same with karma, where like on one level you're thinking like, okay, sure, I get that. That's obvious. But the lottery, I don't get that. But oh, I understand now. Or the meat eating, yeah, I see. I might not remember being a tiger in a previous life, but on good authority, yeah, I get this. Similarly, another way of explaining this, maybe to get everyone's understanding, is suppose you wanted to get into this room and walk up those stairs. You could walk through the glass. You could, no one's stopping you. Or you could open the door and walk through the door. One is more painful than another, but everyone has the free will to do what they want and choose the approach that is one gets a pleasant result, mostly, and one gets a somewhat unpleasant result. It's not illegal to walk through the glass. Maybe if it's your house, but you kind of don't want to. And if you've done that, if you've taken the glass route a couple of times, you kind of learn that no, next time I will take the door. That's better for my overall well-being. So same with karma. All right, but then you have the question of what's the point of karma if I don't remember my past life? How am I going to learn? Right? Yeah, this thing everyone asks this question. Well, first of all, if we remembered all our past lives, and some people do, some people remember their past lives. There's cases where, and you can also get like hypnotic regression or astrology done that tells you what your past life was. So many people have done that and have some realization of what happened in their past life. And some people spontaneously remember. And there's like kids that suddenly speak like Hebrew or something, and you're like, where did that come from? But most people don't remember because it would be highly traumatic to remember your past life, all the relationships left behind, all the injuries, your own death. Remembering that's like super traumatic. And actually, you don't need to know the circumstances to learn the lesson. Like, for example, suppose someone had the misfortune to have abusive parents or really bad parents who were really bad to them. There's two ways of reacting to that. One way is to go, all right, I hate the world and become a criminal. The other way of reacting to that is like, I experienced so much suffering, I will do better. I will not be like that. And when I have children, I want to be really good to them. I want to be the best parent so that my child at least doesn't have to experience the bad thing that happened to me. So one person can learn the lesson from maybe in their previous life, they were abusive themselves to someone. And then now they are getting that as a reaction, and they can choose how to react to that reaction. Wait, do I take a positive route from this reaction and learn a lesson? Or do I take a negative route and not refuse to learn a lesson and walk through the glass instead of walking through the door? Free choice. Karma will have its effect. Karma is there for someone to learn a lesson if they want to, or not if they don't. And of course, so to answer this question, how you react matters a lot more than the why to the. Whatever happens has some kind of effect, some kind of reason for that to have happened to you, and your reaction, however, matters more than the intricate, exact reason why something comes about. So let's turn to someone skeptic explaining. This is a good video from Joe Rogan. How I'll explain it. I'll show it and then explain the what do we call it? The point behind it, and the slight contradiction there.
Sure. I mean, we're interfacing with randomness every time we step out the door.
That's right, but can you treat people that way consistently? It's hard. Right? It's tricky. I'm not giving the answer because I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, this is tricky stuff. We're certainly not like if you lived in a world where you thought that what happened in the world was preordained, that there was all the great playing out as a master plan, or at the very least that there was some sort of karmic influence that made good things happen to good people, bad things happen to bad people, then the world makes more sense, right? You know, I don't believe any of that stuff, but at least then the world seems that if there's something random, you can attach a reason why it happened.
There seems to be something to karma in that when you do good things, you make people feel better, they feel about you better, and then they interface with you in a more positive way, and that sort of like has this outgoing effect.
So that's not karma. That's just a psychologically smart thing to do. Yeah,
right.
I think that you're right that and maybe this is just sort of a Western post-enlightenment way of thinking. We tend to sort of think about immediate consequences for our actions, for better or for worse, and in the real world, sort of generally trying to be good can often pay back in good ways.
But the woo-woo thing is that we're putting out this good energy, and the good energy is coming back to us. And it's a fun way to look at things.
Yeah.
Although there's no evidence that points to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'm in a yoga class and my yoga instructor is talking about different energy flowing through different chakras or whatever, I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. Like as long as it makes me, do
There's
the
actually a little
exercises the right
short eye
way.
roll.
There's a little, but I'm not going to speak up. Let's put it that way.
Right, of course. You're not going to stop the class. You're teaching bullshit.
I would rather have that than, if people want to come up with an excuse to be a good person, that's okay.
It's
So this is like an interesting take, right? He's saying like, oh, well, the world makes so much more sense if there's karma, and if you give out good things, they'll come back to you. But there's no evidence for it, except that it totally works, and it's a good way to lead your life. But there's no evidence, and we don't believe into it, but everyone should do it. And it generally reflects good on you when you do that, even though it's all kind of nonsense. So, I mean, fair enough. So this is an example of two people that seem to accept karma as a good way to lead your life without believing in karma. It's like accepting, not believing in gravity, but acting in a way that complies with the laws of gravity because it would be crazy not to, right? So fine, great, perfect. You don't need to believe in Krishna consciousness for Krishna consciousness to work. It's like apply it to your life, see the result, and eventually, with enough, the book explains it in this way. I tried it. It totally had the effect that the book said. That happens often enough, and you're like, well, I guess the book is actually right, and you start believing into it. But definitely no, you don't start off with belief, and belief comes from experience, not that way around. So, they're kind of laughing at this, but I think this exactly makes the point nicely that you don't have to believe in karma, and in fact, better you don't believe and try it. Try to act in a karma-centric way, and then get the result. So let me illustrate this point that Joe Rogan was saying about like you're putting energy out, get energy back in a little bit more specific way. Your past karma creates a certain situation, and then in that situation, you have a choice to make on how you react to that situation. That choice, at that moment, determines your future karma, such that sometime, either immediately or perhaps many years or perhaps in your next life, that choice at that moment comes back as a certain reaction, which again you can make a choice on. You can't change your past, but you can choose your future. So your past is a reaction, present is a free will choice, and then the future is predetermined by the present. So, so many people, when I was discussing this with, I was discussing this with you, Melissa, right? A couple of weeks ago, where it was like, oh, well, that's a really harsh way of looking at the world, because like everything that happens to you is your fault. How can you say that? It's like something horrible happens to you, you have a horrible accident, your fault. It's like, no, don't think of it that way. It's okay. A much more positive way of interpreting life is to go, okay, this happened. Probably were the result of some bad karma I did either sometime in this life or sometime in the previous life. I don't really care. But I know, for one, there's now less bad karma in my bad karma bank account. Less bad things can happen to me in the future now because I've burned through some of my bad karma. And now let me use this as a great opportunity. This bad thing happening to me is super great opportunity to pick the best possible reaction to shape my future karma. So whatever bad thing happens to me, I will choose the best possible reaction I can to maximize my future karma, my future good karma. And similarly, like this typical thing where Dogbert is saying, I believe in karma. It means I can do bad things to people all day long and I can assume they deserve it. Which is true. But the problem with this, of course, is that even by doing bad things, Dogbert is accumulating bad karma himself, so bad things come back to him. And the people to whom he's doing bad things, they can get angry at him, or they can see it as an opportunity to accumulate good karma. So, yeah, I don't recommend doing this, of course, but it's a different way of looking at the world that reshapes your life for the better. And Joe Rogan was saying this, actually, while saying he doesn't believe in it. He's saying, yes, you do this. You put out good things into the world, and your reaction, how you react to it. And he explains it better in another video, which I have coming up. All right, but is there proof? Is there proof of karma? I don't want to believe or think of something without proof. Well, like I said, you don't really need proof, and belief is simply irrelevant. It's like you don't need to believe in gravity. Gravity exists and happens. You benefit from this karma-based approach to life. By applying karma, not believing it, but practicing karma, you can say, oh well, you can like say someone is a weightlifter. Anyone here lift weights? AJ, of course, right? Yeah, you're a weightlifter. You might say, I don't believe in weightlifting, but you lift enough weights, you have the proper diet, you get stronger, right? Similarly, you apply karma to your life. You don't have to believe in it, but your life improves for the better by how you react to whatever karma throws at you. And you might say, what? Oh, wow. And in the introduction to Bhagavad-Gita, it explains that you should accept this knowledge theoretically, not believe it. So accept it in theory, try to apply it to your life, see the result. But you might say, like, what? Everyone does this already, right? Everyone lives this way already? Oh, no. Most people do not live this way, do not have this kind of karma-centric view in their life. Here's one a little bit elaborate explanation of an example on how you reinterpret your life in this way. This is a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not possible simply by endeavoring to accumulate more money, for example. Otherwise, almost everyone would be on the same level of wealth. In reality, everyone is earning and acquiring according to their predestined karma. This lottery example, right? You're predestined a certain amount of money by your karma, or a certain amount of happiness from that money. We are sometimes faced with dangerous or miserable conditions without endeavoring for them. And similarly, we may have prosperous conditions without endeavoring for them. We are advised to let these things come as predestined. We should therefore engage our valuable time in practicing Krishna consciousness. In other words, one should be satisfied by our natural condition. Karma means we can be more satisfied. Understanding of karma means we can become more satisfied with our life and more peaceful with whatever comes or does not come. A certain detachment can come. And similarly, on the same vein, this quote, another quote from early in the Bhagavad-Gita. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course, or like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception of kind of birth, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So with this karma understanding, one can actually do this, where it's like, whatever good or bad comes, I'm not going to be particularly disturbed by it. It's like, okay, that's my karma, whatever it might be. I win the lottery or not, I'm happy with it or not. Come what may, I am tolerating this without disturbance. And anyone has anyone felt this where they, for example, something really good happens to them and you feel kind of empty? Like someone won an award or gotten a great result in an exam or something, and you're like, okay, what do we do now? It's like, I feel nothing. I expected so much happiness from this, but it's not there. And similarly, someone might feel really bad, and something really bad might happen, and you're like, oh, well, okay. And that is a useful karma-centric way of understanding the world, where it's like, yes, your happiness, real happiness is not going to come from whatever good and bad might come as a reaction. It's on a deeper level. So the promise from the start, where understanding of karma can liberate you from misfortune, this is half that story, where if you can live life with an understanding of karma, the temporary happiness and stresses of the world roll off you like water off a waterproof jacket. So here's Joe Rogan again in a different interview talking to Russell Brand. Russell Brand is like practicing Krishna consciousness, by the way, in London, if you don't know. He's explaining this in different words.
The way you encounter them is going to change the way they behave to you. And everybody always wants to put it off on the person who behaved a certain way to them.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, you're right. But in other ways, your reaction is completely dependent on your own way of approaching it, and your reaction may change the way they react.
You're completely right. Like if throwing a ball against that brick wall, it will bounce back a certain way. But if that became a softer surface, or indeed a furry wall, to quote one of my own films, then it will bounce back in a different way. So this is another thing that's in the program: the necessity for forgiveness.
Yes.
So if you instead of blaming your past, blaming other people, you come to a point of forgiveness. This creates the sort of the nexus for change. As long as you're like, oh, that person felt me up when I was a kid, or my stepdad wasn't a loving figure in my life. As long as I hold on to that belief, I'm trapped by it.
Right.
The minute I say, I relinquish that now, it's not happening anymore, I'm willing to move forward, that's another human being, they were doing the best they could. Suddenly you're liberated and your path changes.
So yeah, you can be liberated from misfortune, your path changes in your life by understanding karma. But wait a minute, what about this mysterious no karma thing, or akarma in Sanskrit? There's a problem with good karma. Anyone know what the problem with good karma is? Why wouldn't you want to have best things happen to you, have happiness come as a reaction? Well, the Bhagavad-Gita explains, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death takes place. No matter how good your karma, eventually everyone's going to die, and everyone will be born again and die, and you continue to cycle throughout many, many lifetimes. And as bodies age, there is the ever-present reality of old age and disease, and viruses of the world, and the struggles of growing old in the world, and struggles of learning things and growing up in the world. And all these things are, in one way or another, struggles and miserable to a certain extent. No one enjoys their own death. That's partially why we don't remember it. So, wouldn't it be better to stop this repeated birth and death? And picture there on the right is the Krishna conception of the universe, which has all kinds of different things going on, and there's a whole other talk, which is very interesting. But various different dimensions you can go into depending on your karma, and we'll go into it at another time, or ask me over dinner. So karma is the engine that powers reincarnation. Without karma, there is no need to reincarnate. Karma is the reaction. One reincarnates because there's leftover karma, there's leftover action. So you do stuff in the world, you react to what has happened to you, that creates new karma, and then you have to experience that reaction. And if you don't have a suitable body for experiencing that reaction, you need a new body. So you get a new body, facilitated by nature, that allows you to accept that reaction as is appropriate. Someone is a voracious meat eater, they get a body to experience that reaction to that. Body of a tiger, body of a cow being slaughtered, those kind of things. And it's a suitable reaction, suitable reincarnation based on their karma. But then if someone had no karma, they wouldn't need to reincarnate anymore, right? But how do you accept no karma? You'd have to almost like do nothing, right? So what, you go to the Himalayas and sit on top of a mountain and just meditate all day, do nothing, right? Then no karma? No, because I mean, yes, sure, but like, who can do that? Has anyone here meditated in the Himalayas before? Or on a mountain anywhere for a significant length of time, for like, let's say a year or something like that? No. No one's done that for even a year, let alone like their whole life. So it's impractical in the modern world. Some rare people do this. Maybe like I don't know, like 1 in 10 million people will try something like this, and yeah, more power to them. But most people can't do that. So you need something more practical. And Bhagavad-Gita is a very practical book. So we move into karma yoga. How the art of karma, the yoga of karma, how you can use karma to reincarnate, to stop the cycle of reincarnation. How you can do yoga means to reconnect. Karma for reconnecting with your spiritual self. How do you act in a way that connects you to a fully spiritual existence? It's the art of all work, and doing so, frees you from the cycle of reincarnation. So how do you do it? Well, Bhagavad-Gita explains, once again, one who acts in devotional service in Bhakti-Yoga, or Karma Yoga, renouncing the fruits of their action, renouncing the result of fruit of action, like you plant a tree, you get the fruit. You plant an action, you get the result. You act as a way of, with the purpose of enjoying what that action produces. And whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, one is not bound by the reactions of work or conquer of riches. So one who acts in this Bhakti Yoga way, one who does service for a higher cause, for a spiritual cause, and renounces the fruits of their action, acts in a way that, if you act in a way that you are doing so non-selfishly, everything you're doing is for a higher purpose, nothing you're doing is for you to enjoy the result. Most people will go, well, I will go watch a movie because I want to enjoy a movie. I want to get into a relationship because I want to feel a certain way. I want to eat this food because I like the taste of it. I want to earn lots of money so I can spend it on expensive cars or whatever. All these kind of selfish things that one can put out produce reactions, either good or bad, depending on, I want to give in charity because I want to feel good about giving to charity. Produces good karma. Nothing wrong with good karma, except it powers the cycle of reincarnation. Then one has to reincarnate and reincarnate in a wealthy family and have good things happen to them, which is fine until one dies, and it's painful. So Bhagavad-Gita gives the choice. Do you want to keep doing this? Going around the karma merry-go-round over and over again? Or do you want to try this Bhakti Yoga thing where you don't do things for your own personal happiness and have read the transcendental knowledge that is in Bhagavad-Gita and understood gravity to the Einsteinian level, and situated in the self that one is no longer bound by the reactions of work. And then the cycle of reincarnation stops. And as explained in another famous book, the Isha Upanishad, one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if one continually goes on working in this way. For that sort of work will not bind one to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. Read it again. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if one continually goes on working in this way, for that sort of work does not bind one to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. Sanskrit is a very poetic language, and you read this stuff in the original Sanskrit, and it's like everything is rhythmic and has a certain meter to it. It's very beautiful. Well, I recommend studying the Sanskrit verses. And the translation here tries to capture a little bit of that rhythm of the original. So you can live for hundreds of years doing stuff out in the material world, if in this Bhakti-Yoga way where all work is done non-selfishly for a higher purpose, and that sort of work does not bind one to the law of karma, and no alternative for humanity to do this, because everything else produces reaction and suffering in one way or another. And this is the second half of how you get liberated from all misfortune. Understanding karma and reshaping, if we can understand karma and reshape our life in such a way that we're renouncing the fruits of action and fully situated in self-realization, then no more reactions. And if no more reactions are coming, misfortune is impossible. Stuff may still be happening, but a person doesn't care. Good or bad, doesn't matter. Carry on doing things non-selfishly. So how do you do things non-selfishly is, of course, the final question. Well, many different ways, but a good way to start is to hang out here at the loft and engage in the various non-selfish activities that are possible. One, you can study the many books that we have here full of transcendental knowledge. You can learn the meditation practice, either meditating by dancing wildly in the kirtan, in the music that was coming up, or meditating on beads quietly. And staff members here can teach you, such as Butler saying there in the top right corner, or here in the audience. But many other staff members can teach you too. You can eat your way to transcendental consciousness by spiritualizing your food. And there's mantras you can chant. There's attitudes while cooking. You can learn that spiritualize the food, that turn it into something that produces no reaction by eating it. And you can have relationships with people in such a way that you're not trying to get something, exploit the other person for something, but you're trying to help each other grow spiritually. And that's a very positive kind of rarely seen way of relating to other people that we're trying to cultivate here at the Loft. So, if all of that sounds interesting, I invite everyone to try to practice a karma, no karma lifestyle, or at the very least, maximize good karma, if that's more to your favor, by treating everything that happens as an opportunity to pick the best possible reaction. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, David.
I found the topic very interesting. Just asking you out of curiosity, so for the lotto example, you know how you said the way that they spent it was a karma, they didn't have the karma to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But would it also be the karma that it came there with? I'm sure like thousands or tens of thousands of people buy the lotto, but why did they get it? Was it just luck, or was that also karma for them getting that?
Yeah. And the way I understand it, there's two different things that can be happening with the lotto example, which makes it a little bit tricky. One is someone gets, just by chance, a random chance, gets the winning numbers and gets a whole bunch of money, but totally doesn't have the karma, or has bad karma due to them, and then the money is instantly causing unhappiness. Suddenly all the relatives come out of the woodwork wanting the money. Suddenly, like, the ex-wife comes and steals the money. Your house gets broken into by someone wanting the money, and it's like instant unhappiness. There's no chance of happiness even coming from that money at all. And then there's the other example where someone had some good karma and won the money as a way, and they do enjoy. They go on like an amazing holiday, fly first class to Tahiti or somewhere, and enjoy a high life. But while enjoying, pay no attention to how they're reacting to that enjoyment that's coming their way, and then they're setting themselves up for losing the money in the future, right, by their future karma.
Okay. So if they do have like that bad karma, that money might facilitate it, they might get into a drug habit with that extra money, or get into things that's going to cause them more suffering with that money.
Yeah.
It just facilitates.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so one of the regulative principles of freedom that we practice here. You're like, what? Regulations of freedom? Huh? What? How does that work? Now, by following a regulation, one is actually more free, because by say eating meat or playing the lotto, for example, that entangles someone into future karma, and that future bad karma, can trap someone in this negative cycle, in this negative bad karma cycle, where kind of bad karma facilitates. Okay, you start a drug habit, you start stealing, and get horrible health from it, and it just spirals downward. So to escape from that, to gain some freedom and some free will back, one has to accept some regulations. Okay, I won't do that again. I won't act in this way. So one of the regulative principles of freedom is no gambling, because gambling can cause a bad karma cycle. Whether or not one is due to good or bad karma, the lottery win can result in something bad, more often than not, for most people. But of course, everyone still thinks, yeah, I'll be different. Okay, any other question? Yes?
Like say you're in the search for good karma and you're putting out a lot of good karma, but it's somewhat kind of reflexively, I guess, greedy of you to do that because you have this expectation of a payout. Does that, in your opinion, like accumulate bad karma or neutralize any sort of debts?
I don't think anyone would kind of voluntarily sign themselves up for suffering. And one can be greedy in a non-selfish way, like someone giving in charity. Like one of the lottery winners gave a lot in charity because it probably made the person feel good. And so he was like, yeah, I want to give charity. Give to my local church, give to members who are less fortunate, and gain some good karma from that. Sure, you can do that. You can makes you feel good. No one's going to complain, but it is not. Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad-Gita don't make value judgments. One of the final verses of Bhagavad-Gita is like, now I've explained all this to you, now you do whatever you want to do. So it's giving you the information and then leaving it up to you to make the choice. Okay, I want to do this, or I want to do this, and this would be the reaction, or this would be the result. So you can work towards good karma in whatever way you want, and that's certainly better than bad karma activities for yourself and for the world, I would say. And yeah, sure, that's fine. That's a useful. The Krishna conscious knowledge has provided some utility, and the person has used that knowledge to fulfill whatever, to improve their life in the way that they want. Ultimately, we are here in this material world to try and satisfy our own desires, and whatever those desires may or may not be, that the material world is there to facilitate that and give us an opportunity to act out our desires. So some people desire good karma, great. Some people don't care about good karma and have a whole bunch of bad karma that comes their way. I mean, sure, do your thing, you be you. Some people are like, I really have had enough of cycling through karma endlessly. Tell me about the spiritual thing. I want to transcend karma. That sounds really interesting. I want to be free from the suffering of birth and death over and over again, not have to worry about that. And then, yeah, sure, come this way. We have hundreds of books that you can read and learn all about it. So, yeah, really up to you. Anything else? Yes?
Just to ask for you to elaborate on the point. When we engage into akarmic activities, right, and we engage into Bhakti-Yoga, for example, does the effect of your bad generated karma still persist, or by engaging in akarmic activities, you actually do not get affected that? Can you explain that?
Yes, very good question. I think if you decide to come to explore Krishna consciousness more, I think you have a bright future ahead of you. That's an excellent question. It's described as turning off a spinning wheel if you engage in karma activities, where, for one, as someone starts a karma journey, it's not like one day to the next, karma and then no karma. Most people, when they start engaging in Krishna consciousness, it's a gradual process. Where you start adding just a little bit of Krishna consciousness, and then seeing, oh yeah, this is quite nice. I'll add a bit more, and then some people are satisfied at a certain level. Some people want to go really deep, and everyone's free to take as little or much Krishna consciousness as they want in their life. And then, based on how much a karma that someone is doing, either their full life is a karma, or maybe just a little bit of their life is a karma, then obviously correspondingly they get they still get reactions from the rest of their life that is led for more or less selfish reasons, which is fine. So, but then suppose even someone, which was your question, someone stops. Okay, I'm gonna fully dedicate myself to non-selfish activities and do Krishna consciousness from now on completely. And then there are still all the future reactions, both good and bad, which are due to come. And it's like described as a spinning wheel. You have a wheel that's spinning, or like a car wheel. You've accelerated, and then you take your foot off the accelerator. There's a bit of rolling that goes on until the car comes to a complete stop. So the rolling is the continued. Some people might reincarnate a couple of times still to get all of the reactions out. So you reincarnate, good and bad things happen to you. And there's even a story of a king who was practicing Krishna consciousness and had a whole bunch of good karma built up. And it was like, okay, so now I have to go on this vacation somewhere just to try to burn up some of that good karma so that I can finally stop the cycle of reincarnation and become a fully spiritual being. Because I have so much good karma to burn, I need to enjoy really heavily that all this good karma gets burned up, and I have an empty bank account of no karma, such that I don't need to reincarnate again. And then from that, when there's no karma left, the consciousness of the person can manifest as a being of pure spiritual consciousness and enter into the spiritual dimension, where there's no birth or death.
So then a follow-up question: if a person burns through good and bad, right? Does that mean in the current lifetime?
Yeah.
Hypothetically, does it mean that it's kind of time for exit the body and stuff like that, or?
Yes, but everyone is.
Because you can't really exist without karma, right?
Yeah, unless you're doing a karma activity, everyone, by every reaction to everything, is producing future karma.
Yeah.
So every reaction you get to anything is producing future karma, which is shaping the next life already. Mm-hmm. So there is no way of escaping karma, because unless you're doing absolutely nothing, like meditating on a mountain for your whole life, which some people try, you're always going to get some kind of karma by whatever you do. And then you're always going to get the next life. Yes. All right, anything else? Interesting question. Oh, yeah. All right. It's time to move on to the next part of the program. If you have more questions, feel free to talk to me or our staff members. And thank you so much for coming, and enjoy. So, next part of the...
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
Yeah, come on. And tell us what's coming next.
What time did I ask this?